Welcome back. Okay, so right now we are going to be talking about our finances.
Our money.
Our money. So we have right here Kathy Buckworth, and she is the Chief Family Advisor for PC Financial, and she is
our money guru.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard, right? Like it's hard. You just did this for money, and I thought that's such a like everyone knows what that means.
Yes.
But we don't really do that anymore because we don't feel money.
Because now I do this,
right?
That's so interesting. Yes. Wait, what does that mean to our kids?
It's like dialing the phone, like nothing, right?
So, don't do it.
But it's a good point because a lot of what especially millennial families are facing is they don't see a lot of their cash, right? We're swiping here, we're tapping there. It goes into our bank account from our employer. We don't see it come in.
Right.
It goes out to the mortgage maybe automatically.
The visual is lost.
The visual is lost, and you lose touch of sort of what you have, how much you're spending, how much you should be saving. So sometimes the best advice is to really just step back and take it manual, even just for a month. And I'm not saying pull out all your online stuff. I'm saying get cash, spend cash when you're getting your morning coffee, spend cash when you go out for lunch, when you buy a new top, whatever. Becomes real, just for a month, and write it down. And sometimes it's just that wake up call to say, I didn't realize I was spending $50 a month on lunch, or whatever.
I think that's
for
the thing. People don't realize how much they're spending when they don't have the cash in their wallet.
My husband and I did that. We actually made little envelopes and then had to pull from the envelope, and the envelopes were empty.
And you're like, what's going on, right? And you thought we were probably spending pretty reasonably before, right? So it's a really great thing to do. It's a really great thing to look at your savings plan at the same time you're looking at your spending plan. And that's a really hard concept when you're in your 30s and you're thinking, well, I don't need to worry about that. My kids are little. It's the best time, right? To be starting that, because you can start pretty small and it builds up over time. So whenever you're writing out a budget or thinking about your spending, one of the expenses you should have is into a savings account.
I was going to ask you what percentage of our income should be going into savings?
You know what, I think it's a little bit different for everyone. I'd actually really encourage you to talk to a financial advisor because you want to know your entire situation. Are you overextended in debt right now? Are you still paying off student loans? Are you saving towards an RESP for your children, an RRSP?
You have to be doing that.
So what are the differences, right? And so what do you consider to be pure savings versus putting away money in a tax-free sort of environment?
Right, because I think that's a little bit scary, right? Because I have a ton of student debt that I went into my marriage with, and I was like, my husband was a saver, and so even us blending that lifestyle was really intense. But then I was so scared. I was like, I need to pay this debt off. But then he's like, we need to save money. So it's scary to take your money when you're a little overextended still, right?
It is. And it depends.
But still important.
It's still important. It depends on what you're borrowing, what interest rate you're borrowing was done. So if it's at a really good low rate, it might not make sense to jam a bunch of money against it. If you can make some more money somewhere else, or you're making a better net benefit by putting it into a tax-free savings account. So you really have to look at your income. Again, it's your individual circumstances.
And also your age, because I'm a little bit older than Melissa, so my student debt's gone. But we're like, savings for retirement. Like that's,
Let's take that age thing back again and go back to the concept of, I felt my parents was really adamant about the savings. And then I feel like as millennials, we're not as obsessed with our savings.
We're spenders.
Is that right? Like what?
I think that's right. I think that's what some of our research has shown. We look at spenders versus savers. And I think there's a few things at play here. First of all, we first talked about the digitization of money. You just don't see it, right? So it's harder to keep track of. You don't have a little pace envelope with money in it that you put out for groceries, etc. I think the other thing is that we have such instant access to consumer debt. Banks make it easier now than it used to be in the past to get those entry-level credit cards, to get yourself sort of in that sort of lending mode. And you should start borrowing money when you're young. Because it builds your credit history. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but it can get easy to get carried away and go sort of beyond your means. We definitely live in an instant gratification kind of world.
I like those
We
moves.
Want to, I'm going to go, I'm going to buy them and put them on Instagram, right? So I'm going to show all my friends.
I take photos of them and put them everywhere.
Right?
Yes.
So that's
got to make me some money somewhere.
I don't think we can discount what social media has done in terms of people sort of showing what they have, and everything's perfect all the time, and so and Pinterest and all those things where I've got to have the perfect house and my living room has to be
white kitchen
out of a magazine and everything, right? So I think that makes a big difference for this generation too, is we're seeing how a lot of other people live, and it's making us a little anxious.
One thing I was going to say was we're talking about cards and cash, but there is a big benefit to having cards. We were just talking about is the points.
Absolutely, and of course, PC Financial, we have PC Plus points at Loblaws. I got $100 off yesterday at the grocery store.
My points, I love them.
Right, and I think that's a really good point. Is really looking at some of those programs are like money, literally money in the bank. So you should consolidate your spending onto one credit card. Of course, I'd recommend the PC Financial World Elite Elite MasterCard, which gives you double and triple points at Shoppers Drug Mart as well as Loblaws, et cetera. You know all of this. But I mean, whatever program you're using, you should consolidate your spending and consider that as money.
Because it is money, because you get to the till and then you get $50 off your shopping Shoppers or wherever. It's great.
That's one of my things my husband and I did is we set a limit and we asked them to just give us $1,000, right? And so we knew groceries was this much and gas was this much. So that was our gas and groceries card. And we kind of was
easy.
But then I was getting all this money back, right? Last month, $40 back.
And Joe Fresh blouse for me.
There you go, right? So it made it easier for me to spend the money. But
no, exactly.
We went, just to go back and play back to the Instagram thing, because I think that's a really interesting point. What's maybe a tip from your perspective for us to deal with that? Like that instant gratification, or to dealing with, I want this or I want that nice piece of item. What's something for us to maybe put in our heads to pull us back off that ledge?
To stop buying things you can't afford or you can't have.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it is simple things like stepping back and saying, where am I spending my money, and do I have budget for that? And we all just went through back to school spending, and our research showed that we spend almost as much at back to school as we do at Christmas.
Oh my
gosh. And so that's kind of exactly your reaction is, exactly what we thought when we found this research, and we thought, and people don't necessarily budget as much for back to school, so we've actually just come out of a heavy spending period.
Wow.
So you might think, oh, Christmas isn't for a few months, so I can save up for presents, I can get those new boots or that couch or what have you, and probably not. You're probably actually in a state right now where your spending has actually gone up over the last month and you haven't realized it.
Right.
So again, just looking at, you really should be budgeting for things. It's tough not to get drawn into, well, she has it or he has it and I want the same, but recognizing that you're only seeing such a small part of, that's a whole other topic,
yeah, that's
right?
a whole other topic.
But it's such a small part of
versus,
their lives and their reality, et cetera, right?
And,
and we know that, I mean, the most liked pictures on Instagram are actually of people and then food. I don't understand that, but anyway, and then food. But then third are sort of
food was first,
and then third sort of things, you know what I mean, right? So we have to keep that in mind too. A lot of people like showing off things, and that's never changed. It's just so much more visual. Right?
And so as a family, I think it's important to have a budget, right?
Absolutely.
So where do you recommend starting if you haven't ever done a budget before, like, and creating one?
Yeah, and as simple as just look at maybe 2 months worth of spending, because 1 month could be off here or there, and look at what's my income. So you should know what's coming in. Maybe it's variable if you're a freelance, whatever, but estimate what's your monthly income, and then what are your fixed expenses. So maybe it's your mortgage and your house insurance, your car payment, your thing, and your hydro is basically the same all the time. So get all of your fixed expenses down. They come in every month, either digital or on paper. It's not so hard to write them down. And then look at what's my variable, what's my leftover, and that's your discretionary spending. And that's either going to go to, first of all, you should have had some savings going already, but you might say, I do have more money in discretionary spending, wouldn't that be nice, than I thought. So you could put a little bit more into savings, so you didn't realize that you could live without those other things. And then you really do have to save for things like clothing budgets and furniture and vacations. We're just talking about vacations and how expensive they are.
Especially with now, I have a family of 5, like we're planning a vacation, and like you do have to set money aside every month to pay for that before the vacation.
Before you go. And you had mentioned you're doing an all-inclusive, which is actually a great way to budget, because you know exactly how much it's going to cost you.
And I don't want to spend anything when I'm there. Like pay for it before I get there. And that's the vacation part, is not spending money because you've already paid for it.
Yeah,
right?
so you're not feeling guilty about having that extra meal or drink or the kids doing an activity,
that's
right?
the vacation.
You've paid for it.
Yes.
So it's smart when your kids are young, especially, to do that, and when you're in a pure savings.
And we're going to do another segment with Kathy talking about that, because she's also an expert when it comes to travel. So.
Yeah, we'd love to
so excited. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for making time to come and sit with us today.
Thank you.
And if you want to learn more about budget, or Kathy actually writes a blog for PC Financial, so you can find more information at pcfinancial.ca. Thanks so much, and we will see you guys again next week.
We'll see you next week.